Hey everyone, welcome back. We are diving deep today into the world of U.S.-Ukraine relations.
Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah, it is. It's messy.
It always is.
Yeah, and we've got some sources that
Mm.
really kind of pull back the curtain
Yeah.
on how diplomacy and economics get all tangled up when you get a conflict going on.
For sure.
We'll be looking at excerpts from pasted text, and I think we're going to learn some pretty interesting stuff.
Absolutely. Buckle up.
So for our listeners who are just tuning in for the first time,
Yeah.
you all want to know what's happening, right? Beyond just the headlines, you want the deeper context.
Right. And how all the pieces fit together.
Exactly. And today's story, well, involves a war, peace talks, and something that you might not expect, rare earth minerals.
Yeah. It's not your typical geopolitical thriller. That's
Usually not.
like.
Okay. So
Okay.
to really grasp what's going on here, we've got to rewind a bit.
Okay.
Ukraine and Russia, they've been at war 3
Mm-hmm.
years now. This is a conflict that has had ripple effects across the globe.
Oh.
And President Zelensky, he's leading Ukraine through this incredibly challenging time. And of course, he's looking to the U.S. for support, hoping to find a way to end this war.
Yeah, and that's where things get really interesting. Because on the surface, the U.S. is all about supporting Ukraine's sovereignty. You know, publicly, they're like, we're with you.
Right.
But behind the scenes, there's a whole other game going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, our sources are indicating that the U.S. has a very strong interest in Ukraine's rare earth minerals.
Interesting.
And we're not just talking about any old minerals. We're talking about the elements that power our modern world. Lithium for batteries, graphite for tech, even uranium, nuclear energy.
So the U.S. interest in Ukraine's rare earth minerals, is this a purely economic interest, or is it somehow tied to their diplomatic efforts?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? I mean, it's likely both. The U.S. has been pushing hard for a deal that would give them access to a big chunk of Ukraine's rare earth mineral production. And this desire for a deal, it seems to be influencing how the U.S. approaches the peace talks between Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah, that does make sense. I mean, access to those resources would give the U.S. a huge advantage in a lot of key industries.
Yeah.
But it sounds like this proposed deal hasn't exactly been a walk in the park.
Nope, not at all. I mean, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he just recently flew to Kyiv to try to hammer out this deal. But Zelensky rejected the initial proposal.
He did. Why?
Well, the U.S. wanted a 50% cut of the profits, and Zelensky just flat out said no, it wasn't fair.
Huh. So Zelensky's rejection of this deal, that's pretty telling. It suggests that he's willing to push back against the U.S., even when they're offering support. So what are his priorities? Is he solely focused on peace, or are there other things at play here?
Yeah, he's in a tough spot. He needs U.S. support to stand up to Russia, but he also has to protect Ukraine's interests. His saying no to that deal shows that he's not going to be anyone's pawn.
Right. And this brings us to another big player in this whole situation, President Trump. Because from what I've read, he's been pretty skeptical of the amount of aid the U.S. gives to Ukraine.
Yeah.
So how does his skepticism play into this whole rare earth mineral deal?
Trump's skepticism, yeah, that's a major factor. He sees this deal as a way to get something back, you know, for the U.S. investment in Ukraine, like a return on investment.
Okay.
In his mind, the U.S. should get something tangible for their aid. And these rare earth minerals, well, they represent a pretty significant return.
It sounds like we're uncovering some pretty complex motivations here. I mean, on the one hand, the U.S. wants to help Ukraine against Russia. But on the other, they've got this very clear economic goal to secure those rare earth minerals. So does this mean the U.S. is really trying to achieve peace? Or are they using this situation to grab valuable resources?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? This focus on rare earth minerals, it makes U.S. diplomacy a lot more murky. I mean, are these minerals a bargaining chip in the peace process? Or could they actually be an obstacle? Could this whole focus on economics undermine the efforts to reach a real, lasting peace? It's something to think about, for sure, as this whole situation keeps unfolding.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, I want you to consider this. Could the pursuit of these rare earth minerals be a point of leverage? Or could it backfire, creating even more tension between the U.S. and Ukraine? It's a complex situation with no easy answers.
Right.
But by understanding the motivations at play, we can start to see the bigger picture. And hopefully that leads to some informed discussions about how to move forward.
Exactly. Because this isn't just about minerals, it's about the future of Ukraine, the balance of power in the region, and the role of the U.S. on the global stage.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be back next time with another look behind the headlines.
See you then.
Until then, stay curious.